Okay, good. Live now.
Take it away, Kellie.
Well, good morning. Very excited to be here today. Again, we're going to be talking about a principle here, but I want to make sure everyone understands the NAWRB and what it does a little bit. They actually are the group that fosters our small committee here, the NAWRB, Diversity and Inclusion Leadership Council. It's a mouthful, but it's a good mouthful. So I'm very, very happy to be here with my esteemed colleagues that represent a wide variety of expertise in so many different areas. And I'm going to give a very short bio because I think Erica did a great job the last time sharing what we do. But my name is Kellie Aamodt. I've had over 35 years in supply chain logistics, most of it at UPS. Recently retired from UPS and enjoying my retirement by doing some independent consulting, etc. Erica represents the military, the Army, and she has done a ton of work with gender issues in the Army and has a background that includes flying helicopters. And I'll let her talk about that and everything she's done. Both Tammy and Teresa and Desiree are in real estate and know everything there is to know about real estate, mortgages, all the banking side that comes with real estate. Very, very excited to have them here. And Chitra, representing high tech. You can see Amicus Brain is her company, and we're very excited to have Chitra join us also. So with that, I really wanted to start off with, again, just letting everyone understand the 10 principles that the group set up. There are 10. We started last month with the first one on trailblazing and trailblazers and what that means for women. And we had a great discussion on that. So this month, we change and we go to principle number 2, which is called keep achieving. And achieving has a wide variety of definitions as you think about it, because you can achieve in a wide variety of ways, you know, professionally, personally, spiritually, many different ways. I'm going to kind of center our discussion a little bit on careers and things, but I want to encourage the group here to really talk about any tangents and how you feel about achievement as we move forward. You know, as I thought about women in general and the difference and why is this even a principle for women? Why do we need a principle called keep achieving for women? And one thing that I looked back on was I spent many years at UPS interviewing people for promotions, interviewing people for the next level, etc. And I always found it interesting that women always felt that they needed to do more. They weren't quite ready. They didn't know if they should take that next step. They were always kind of questioning their ability. But the males that I interviewed never questioned. In fact, many of them weren't ready, and they were absolutely raising their hands to take the job. And it was just a difference, I think, in the level of confidence and how women kind of feel that, you know, they need to always be so ready. And I don't know if you're ever really ready. So I've thought about that a lot. And I thought that, you know, for women in general, we need to encourage each other to take those steps forward and to really say yes more often. We tend to say no or wait or maybe a little bit more. And, you know, that really has struck me as I've looked at my career and all the women that I've dealt with. And I want to throw that open to the group as just kind of a lead in. You know, what do you think about keep achieving as a principle, and maybe why do we even need this as a principle when we think about women? Why don't I throw it open, Tammy, to you, and feel free to take it again in other directions if there's another way you want to take it.
Well, I think that as leaders in organizations or leaders of our family, we need to continue to grow if we want people to follow us and they want to continue to grow. And so, you know, people won't follow somebody that isn't growing. And that can be true in a family, that can be true in a community, and that can be true in a business too. So you always have to be focused on the next thing. And it doesn't have to be an enormous thing. Everyone has different goals and different targets in mind for themselves. But a couple things that I've found that work incredibly well on being able to keep achieving, regardless of where you are in your life right now. Number one, put together the top 3 things that you want to accomplish tomorrow, the night before. And the biggest thing out of that is the next day, don't go to number 2 until you finish number 1. we have so many people that are multitasking all the time, and they have lists and they have checklists all over the place. And by the end of the day, they're exhausted. And I think you're more tired when you don't achieve. You're more tired when you don't accomplish something. So it's a great book. It's called Organize Tomorrow Today. It sounds really boring, but it was actually written by sports psychologists, and it's phenomenal. So you write down the top 3 things you want to accomplish. Don't go to number 2 until you finish number 1. But the other thing is you have to be really passionate. Have a passion project. It's got to be something you're passionate about. Raising a family, we all just spoke about it before getting on here. We're all passionate about that, right? And we want to do the right things, and we want to be able to lead by example. So that gives you a great passion project. And maybe it's something specific in your children's lives or your significant other's life that you really want to focus on. One of the great things about being really passionate, if you can pick one word that'll help you to stay focused, there's a great book, One Word That Can Change Your Life, but it's finding a word that will help you to stick with all the things you put together for a plan. And I don't recommend just a business plan. It's got to be a life plan that you're achieving in every area. If I'm happy at home, I'm going to be happier at work. If I'm happy at work, I'm going to be happier in all the other facets of my life. And so, we have this full wheel. We don't want to have a flat tire because we won't accomplish as much. We'll hit burnout if we're not really full circle. My one word for this year is presence. And so that, for me, I want to have a presence even when I'm not present, and I want it to be a really positive presence, and make sure that that presence is being felt. So it's in every single step that I want to accomplish. That's part of it. But being really passionate, knowing what you really want, is the easiest way to achieve things. And sometimes, and all of us that are sitting here know it, we have to do some things that are task-oriented or boring, and they're not things that we really want to do. But if we keep that focus of what we really want to achieve in front of us, that beautiful shiny light that of where you want to get to, it makes it a whole lot easier to step over those hurdles.
Yeah, that's great insight, Tammy. Who else wants to jump in here?
Well, I'll jump in. And first of all, Tammy, what a great viewpoint. And I'm so excited to be on the panel this time. I wasn't able to make the last call. But, I really think about, if you look back in history, there's always, and I love the keep achieving, because I think every one of us needs to continue to always be striving for better things. And if you look at history and you look at women's suffrage and you look at all the things that we've gone through and how, think about it, if we hadn't achieved the fact that we were the right to vote, if we hadn't achieved the opportunities that we have to be equal in the workplace with RBG, who she was such a huge fighter for rights for women in employment, if we had not achieved all these phenomenal things, where would we be today? I mean, you look at third world countries, you look, I'm Latina, I'm originally from Colombia, I know Chitra's from India, and you look at all these, or Pakistan now is, India. Okay. And so now you think about all these, things and how, still today, in many third world countries, women still don't have the right to drive. They still don't have the right or the opportunity to do something without the permission of their husband. They don't have the right. I mean, think about it, the right to even inherit land, which at one time that was the US. We did not have the right to purchase a home in our name. So I think we always have to keep achieving, and we always have to continue to strive, because that's the only way that we move forward in the society. So I'm excited that this is part of our absolute women's principles. I think it's a principle for everyone, for every child, for everyone, to always be better than you were yesterday, because that's the only way that we can continue to strive, and we can continue to create new ideas and incorporate new inventions. It's just that always achieving and moving forward. So I totally think it's a perfect principle. And based on what you said, Kellie, as you interview people, and I work for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, I am very, very honored to be able to work with Home Services of America. And I feel, as a Latina, as someone that grew up in poverty and came out of that, and I look at if it hadn't been for the always moving up and feeling scared and going, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to go ahead and take this new job, and just, if I fall, I fall, but knowing all those things and moving forward is how I've been able to, develop myself, even when I've been insecure, and even when I don't do well, like there are things that I don't do well, but I just got to learn how to do them better. And I'm admitting to that. And guys, know that there are times that you don't know what you're doing, and it's okay. It's okay. Just learn from others, and it's okay to admit, hey, I failed at this, and now I'm going to do better next time. So
you learn so much from the failures, right, Teresa?
more so from the failures than you do from the successes. I think you learn so much more from when you fall and when you fail. It's how you get up and move forward that really makes you a leader.
You know, what I
Absolutely.
think is really important to that too, though, is that sometimes that helps for you to know what you're really good at. Because we're all only really good at a couple of things. We excel at a few things. We know that we have a certain lanes that we're in. We know we're in the zone and we're in our lane. And the more we develop over time, the more we realize that. And that doesn't mean that we can't try and experience other things. But if you don't jump out and try more things, multiple things, you won't find out what you're really good at and what your lane is, because there are some things that for certain somebody else should do than us, right? And that's part of how you discover that. Even for kids, that's how they learn what they're good at for sports or the things that they're really going to get joy out of. We need to have exposure to all those experiences. And humility is a pretty good thing, and failure definitely helps you with humility.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. How about Chitra? How about in high tech? I mean,
Yeah, the connecting what Tammy and Teresa is saying, two things jump at me. Teresa talked about that fear, right? I translate it into discomfort. So in order to keep achieving, you need to be stretching outside of your passion lane, right? Because at some point in what you're good at, you truly excel, and you need to broaden out, and that's part of the game. Keeping up with whether you're keeping up with technology, whether you're keeping up with your children, it's a continuously learning game. And part of that is getting comfortable around discomfort. There is one saying I always remember from one of the famous women leaders in computer science, growth and comfort don't go together. And I think that is so true. You know, if I don't put myself out to be uncomfortable in something new, I am not growing. I'm just stagnating. I'm just tall. So therefore, I just related to Teresa that fear is it's really about doing new things, right? It's really about getting comfortable with the discomfort of doing new things. So, and that's part of keep achieving. So this is an exciting, it's just a mantra of this. I think, how did we change ourselves, evolve ourselves last year with the pandemic? We quickly adapted to everything we needed to do over virtual media. So.
Yeah, that, you know, and that's a great kind of follow-up too to think about is 2020 brought a ton of challenges, and to be able to keep achieving through those challenges and through utilization of different tools, etc. I don't know, Erica, maybe you want to talk about, like, how did 2020 kind of change the way you achieve, or did you do anything different?
I think everybody's done things different this year. We've been busy, but we've also had the time to reflect. And, you know, women, generally most of us, I mean, we're all mothers. We've been through our 20s trying to figure out life. You know, 30s, we're really starting to figure out a self-identity, and 40s, we're giving back. And then, you know, 50s, continuing to give back. So, you know, this has been a great time to kind of say, all right, balance. Women always struggle with that. You know, we can achieve whatever we put our minds to. I think as long as we have a little bit of help and we have people who are willing to develop, to allow us to develop personally and also nudge you to develop. And to Chitra, absolutely be uncomfortable. You're never going to gain confidence unless you put yourself out there and you're sweaty and you're tired and you're, you know, frustrated. And then you get to the point where eventually you're like, oh, I got through that, or I got through that, I got through that. And then you're confident and you're not afraid of the next task. But yeah, I've done a lot of reflection, like many, reached out to a lot of old friends, trying to be patient and understand family members in this political time. Also, you know, a time of COVID, you know, the judgmental piece of everything. Like, you know, most of us are like, just wear a mask. It's not hard. But some people say, hey, it's my freedom not to wear a mask. So, you know, it's taught me a little bit more patience. And I also pivoted my own business, more from logistics, but more towards the diversity and inclusion side, because I do it all the time, and why not get paid for something that I love to do? Going back to Tammy's point, just passion. If you're passionate about something, it will get you through the rough times.
Yeah, I think to myself, sometimes it's good to look at history too. It really helps you, keep a perspective about things, because people have gotten so emotional and maybe so passionate, Tammy, about certain issues that they can't listen anymore. And I think listening is such a key point in order to keep achieving. A lot of terms were mentioned, learning, etc. And when I looked up the definition of achieving, it said successfully bring about a desired objective, level, or result by effort, skill, or courage. And I thought, most of the time we think about skill and we always think of hard work, but sometimes it's that courage you all were talking about that's important. I want to hear from Desiree as well. Desiree, it's been an interesting year for you, obviously, running this organization and trying to get through 2020. How has that changed your, I guess, achieving tools, or what have you done differently to keep achieving this year?
Yeah, it's definitely been something that I had to take to heart as a visionary. And you say, that we're only good at a couple things, Tammy. And it took me a while to figure that out. And Chitra was, a couple years ago said, you're a visionary, you got this, and things I started looking at going, well, doesn't everyone think this way? No, people don't think that way. You're very different. And so this year or 2020 was a year that I had to sit back, and the fear of knowing and projecting things that I thought were going to happen in 2019 happened in 2020, and then analyzing so many different feeds of where it was going. I got withdrawn. I sat there and I said, okay, I've got to figure this out to where I can reset my boundaries and my line so I can then expand, because I had to reset my mental health and my ability to cope with the changes and what that involved. And so one of the things that I realized that I was watching too much news, I was getting too much involved, that we've all heard about, that I had to reset and figure out, take care of me, reset me to do what I like. I'm dressed up, but 2021 was, Tammy said, be present. Mine is be inspirational. I got to a point where I didn't have that inspiration. I put myself in a stage and said, okay, yeah, I got this. I'm really excited. But then I get off the call and I find myself just kind of doing this until I got on the next call, and I'd lived to be inspirational. So to repivot, I'm sitting here going, okay, so how can we take a change to change what we're doing? And one of the things is that the better I understand something, the better I can apply it to the new things. So be that inspiration, be that change to go out there and say, what can we do differently? So these principles, they were originally set to get them out there, to have a vision to where we could say, these are things we need to live by. Now we made them a monthly theme. And if you think about it, every day, if we could acknowledge someone who's keep achieving, last month it was acknowledge trailblazers. Look at all the trailblazers every one of you reference, whether RBG, whether so-and-so, reference books and people. It doesn't have to be just a woman, it could be a man, it could be anything that's doing something. And so when I think about keep achieving for me and pivoting the company, it is now grounded and say, what do you want to add to the arsenal to make sure that we are connecting and we are not forgetting something, someone, someplace, some industry, that we need each other. I mean, the ecosystem has been so disrupted between the countries, between our food supply chain, our health supply chain. We've taken everything for granted. And so for us as an organization, I realized that I need to put purpose of what we're doing and how we can help each other, and being more set in those ways to really do actionable things, and versus then just so this inspirational, hence these podcasts every month, we're keeping that energy that we had at the conference. So we all walked away and went, oh my gosh, we lived it for a month. Why not live it every month and every day to keep that inspiration go? So those are the kinds of things that we're doing.
Desiree, you hit on something there, and I kind of want everyone to elaborate on it. Erica mentioned 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Some of us hit our 60s this year. So yeah, so some of us have a lot of reflection we can do. But you mentioned, Desiree, helping others. So how do we help others achieve, especially in a time when we're a little disconnected, maybe can't be right there. Does anyone have any ideas on ways to help and support other women in their journey to achieve, or anyone in their journey to achieve? Ideas that you can give?
Well, I think that there's two sides to that. I think that they need to have exposure to experiences and exposure to people in order to grow. All people need that. And whether you're a mentor or you're being mentored, and probably I recommend both, right? That you have the opportunity to be a mentor to people, but then you also have the opportunity to be mentored. You should always keep looking for role models for yourself, as well as being a role model for others. And you can start thinking about where your priorities are. I'll tell you, you grow so much, and that even goes back to achievement. When I sit on the board for charities, I learn as much about that to build. I'm the CEO for Exit Realty. I learn as much in that realm to take into the business as I do surrounding myself with business people. We all have passions. And so one of mine is women, and young women, especially, for giving them the opportunity to be exposed to things early on. And so I speak to a lot of Girl Scouts and to a lot of universities and schools and that kind of thing. And I'm positive that all of us do that. But that's a great opportunity to step out of your comfort zone and get exposure to something, and even find out some of the things that you really want to achieve. And part of the joy in achieving is helping other people achieve their goals, right? People become who we tell them they can be. That's probably the biggest thing that I do business-wise, is catch people doing something good or point out a talent for them, so that someday later on, who knows whether it's a month or a year or whatever that time frame is, my favorite time is when they come back and say, I did it, right? Yeah. They become what it is that you tell them they can be. So I think all of us just asking that effective question, who can we help, or who can we help the best, really? Who can we touch with our abilities? Who can we touch the most and have the biggest impact on?
Absolutely. Other comments on that?
Yeah, I'd add one more point to that. I think when we surround ourselves people smarter than us, it's a win-win. We don't get stalled with our knowledge and experience. We are continuously learning from everybody surrounding us. This is an example of that. And the people who are surrounding us, they are also learning from something from us. So for me, I think that's one of the practical ways of coming up with ways to, keep achieving.
Yeah, and I got to hit on something too, or echo what Tammy said about nonprofits. I've done a lot of work on boards, nonprofit boards, and I have learned so much, not only in a professional sense, but really in a personal sense. As I've watched, I'm from Minneapolis, and as I've watched the whole racial piece come into play this year, and all the problems of social injustice and everything else we've got to deal with, one of the things I've felt grateful for is that I have a very diverse group of friends. And we talk about diverse, this whole council is on diversity. I have a very diverse group of friends, and I would go to my friends and ask questions, because I think the worst thing, it's all about fear. If you don't know anyone that's different and you don't talk to anyone that's different, you will only have a very, very small mindset. And so again, nonprofit boards, nonprofit work, volunteering gets you down in where the work is actually being done. And I know that might be hard today with COVID, but there's still things you can do strategically. There's still things you can do to mentor, like you said, Tammy, and to inspire. And an inspiration is so critical.
One more thing I wanted to mention on that, because I know that there are a lot of people that, with all the charities that are going on and every single public opportunity we have. You know, sometimes you have more money than you have time. And you can donate to a cause, physically donating, whether you're donating items or you're donating financially. And other times you can donate your time because maybe you're not as strong on the financial side. And sometimes it's a balance all the way through. But I think especially women, because we're so multifaceted, I think that, and women collaborate so well together, that really bodes well in every facet of your life, whether it, you know, spirituality, giving, being part of a community, all of those things. But never minimize what it is that you're contributing, because sometimes your steps are going to be baby steps, and sometimes you're going to just rocket through something because it's a lane that you're really in, but you're learning all the time. One of the best things, and I wish I could remember who actually said it to me, but they said, you know, even if you're in a sailboat and there's no wind, if your sail is pointed in the right direction, you're still moving forward. And I think that especially during COVID, with people having pent up demand and pent up frustration, it's really important to know that just one step in front of the other sometimes is okay too. There are things you're going to excel at, and there are things that just look at the contribution that you're making, even if it's small steps.
Well, and you mentioned, Tammy, you know, like this year, which I think was a year for all of us, or this past year, 2020, we really all achieved. If you look at what we did in any aspect of our business, you know, I know, you know, Erica was in Washington, D.C. working, you know, probably work that she'd never done before. All of us had been doing work we've never done before. And that is a testament as to our spirit and the capabilities that we have, that sometimes looking at us here on this Zoom and having this exposure is really going to be very valuable. And so as we continue on and move forward, the mentorship piece that Tammy mentioned, I think it's really important that people see us talking about these issues, and also how important it is always to be able to participate in areas where you may not have experience or skills, and, you know, be part of and learn from. And so, you know, with the charitable work that every one of us does, right? This is a place I think that a lot of young women can really develop skill sets if they don't have the capacity to have it in their own workforce or in their own workplace or in their home environment. Because for me, when I was, you know, starting out, I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the leaders. I didn't have the people that were, you know, better than, I mean, I just didn't have that, you know, that capacity. And so I really started to volunteer. And as I volunteered my time, I realized, wow, this is a great development that I became a leader. Like, oh, you know, I'll do that. Or I raised my hand to be the coach, or I raised my hand to, you know, to be the head of the Girl Scout, you know, troop, or things that you now are developing skills because you're starting to organize. Eventually, I started the NAWRB Atlanta chapter. I mean, I think back at things that I did now, and how did I feel I could even do that? But you just, because of the fact that I started out volunteering, it helped me develop the skills that I wouldn't have gotten any other way. So I think for women, for all of you out there, if you are new, if you're trying to develop somewhere that you don't have expertise in, volunteer and get those skills, because you'll be able to develop them so much easier, because these organizations, you know, Kelly, Tammy, all of us participated, are always looking for talent and always need help from people to assist them in creating programs, and also getting their strategy throughout, and fundraising, all the things that really help you develop your own skills.
You know, I think a whole another thing out of that, from an achievement standpoint, you realize just how fortunate you are when you go and help other people and you really get exposed. I remember one of my very first just physically hands-on, I was president of a battered women's shelter, and I got involved in a project that I worked directly for the Attorney General, teaching at-risk youth. And it was girls that were from 11 to 17 years old, and this was their last shot, or they were not going to go back home. They were going to become a ward of the state. And it was girls that had committed violent crimes. And I had to teach self-control workshops for them and self-defense workshops for them. And I remember, I mean, talk about a learning curve. I went in like June Cleaver and thought I was going to save the day. And here's these girls that are literally this young, completely jaded because they had never had the exposure of really good role models and great leadership. So they had, you know, FU written on their fingernails, and you know, they just had such a negative impact on what it is that they thought was going on with the world. And they just imagine, how could you be jaded at 11, right? I mean, just so sad. And I went in the first time, and I was too Pollyanna for sure. And I cried the whole ride home thinking, oh my gosh, just thinking about what they had. And the next time I went in, and I'm a martial artist, and I went in tough as nails with jeans, and these guys have to go through metal detectors to go get this class, and all of them failed the metal detectors. I mean, these are tough girls, and most of them have committed violent crimes against a family member, and some of them, unfortunately, probably justifiably so. And so to turn them around, I had to actually put myself in their shoes, literally be where they were, not where I was, where they were. And that was just one of the biggest lessons and learning curves for me, but also just the fact that there were people that live like that. You just realize, and especially going through COVID, because we're seeing an awful lot of people that have anxiety or are depressed, we are so much better off than most of the people that we know. And we really have to have an appreciation for that. And I think that to whom much is given, much is expected. So that opportunity to give back is a really important thing for all of us.
Yeah, and I think as you get to know individuals, Tammy, because I had a similar experience with a prisoner out of Sing Sing, and you get to know individuals, it changes your whole impression of that group of people. It's very hard to hate when you have friends right around you, and you know people around you. And I think too, just, you know, the nonprofit aspect, Teresa, that you talked about, it also helps you build a network. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways to achieve, and one of the ways to continue to grow and learn, again, is by building that network and getting people around you that can help you try new things and help you learn new things. And I think that's an important piece too. I know, Erica, you look like you had something to say. Did you want to jump in there? Oh, okay.
I always have something to say, but I mean, if I were to piggyback off of this, so many young women don't know what they want to do in life. You know, we've all been there. And I always say, start with what makes you angry, like what really pisses you off. How do you want to be part of that solution? And then that's where the nonprofits or the for-profits, but you start kind of maneuvering your way in a space, and that passion will keep you going through the ups and the downs. And, you know, again, I always say, you know, how do you want to make a difference in life? And throughout my journey, I've learned that the grassroots is absolutely imperative. Those one-on-one, peer-to-peer type of tell it like it is and get somebody through whatever it is they're going through and help them see the steps that it would take to get them to something that they're trying to achieve. But also, you know, having that mantra of, if you're not at the table, you know, you're on the menu. So get yourself in positions of influence. And I have had the privilege and the opportunity, not because it was handed to me, but because I worked hard for it, to be at the highest levels and work with international and work with national policy. And policy, if written right and done right, and there's good thought behind it, has the ability to influence millions of people in a positive way. You know, it starts with the policy, then it's the implementation, and then it's, you know, all of the pieces that go to that. So if you die, there are books written about this. They're not going to write about all the policy and all the great and wonderful things you did at the higher level. It's the one-on-one interactions. That's what people write about. How did you touch somebody individually? And a lot of times we get very busy in life. And, you know, I always go back to that. You never know how, when you can touch somebody individually positively, what those effects will be to others. So right now, you know, Tammy and I were talking before this started, what can we control? What can we wake up and control? You know, there's negativity coming at us from everywhere. How can we positively influence our lives and others. And that helps along your path of your own achieving, whatever you define that as.
I love that, Erica. It's, you know, if we tie into everything that's going on right now, is that a fun fact that I always love to talk about, and all of us and having something out there is, I have a huge fear of talking to people. People would not believe that, but I do, because my mouth doesn't stop. But for me to get up and speak in front of thousands of people and get up there and become the energizer of the conference or of the presentation is something that I thrive on, but the fear of doing it is unreal. And talking to people individually, I have a huge fear that I start clamming up and I can't control it. And here I'm 60, we talked about, you know, during 60, I still have that fear. I mean, I can remember so many times that feeling uncomfortable, but saying, when you're up there and you're in your element and it's going well, the sky's the limit. I just go crazy on it. And so the idea is that I'm helping, in my opinion, if I can show you, and that's where we came up with know the rules of the game, is that I'm helping you. If I only knew, then this could have been so much better. So for your passion, like you have with Erica, you know, when she told me about Zulu time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Let's get it out there. What's the impact it can get done? And to take it from the angle of, I'm, you know, the anger, I want to change and help the nonprofit, or I'm passionate about something, let me, you know, take that angle of what I would love to do. They're coming from different angles, but the end result's the same. Yeah. So the idea is that by getting on the stage, I'm allowing my inner soul to be spread so you can see me, and hopefully I can help everyone at the same time versus just a single person. So the idea is what the pandemic has brought to us. From 2020 to now, we miss that interaction. Our sensory overload is not happening. We have 21 senses. We all think about the 5, but our 21 senses are not being activated because we are not inspired of the feeling of that. You don't know what I'm wearing on the bottom of my pants right now, or if I even have it on. You don't know how I smell. You know,
you don't want to know.
You know, you don't know, you know, and you don't get to see that element of, oh, I like what you did, or, you know, be in that fashion statement or not. You know, to me, that energized me. So the idea is that we have to get back into making sure that what makes us be our best and continue to be our best so we can shine and be inspirational, I think is where this all is going, because we got to figure out how we can energize the body and the mind and to keep that going for 2021. If we do that as the women, as the quarterback, and keep the emotion, because think about our children. How many times you would get them to feel good, they would eat those peas or carrots that they didn't want to eat, or they would go out there and do something because they didn't want to meet a girl or do something, you know, that was out of their element. That is where we have to feel a way of hugging without the physical hugging that we have, that we're, you know, lacked here in Irvine. We have ICU beds literally 2 miles from my home, that we have 50 ICU beds in a parking lot. And yet some of you don't have anything within miles or hundreds of miles, you know. So to hear that impact of where you are and what you see behind the cover is so different.
You know, I love that you just humanized everything, Desiree. It is so important. No one would know that you have any fear. You look like a fashion model every time you come out, and you always have something to say. And so nobody would know that. But I think it's so important for anybody that's accomplished anything to really humanize themselves so people can see themselves in you. People can see that, okay, she's afraid to stand on the stage. Maybe I'm afraid to stand on the stage, but that'll give me the courage to do that. And I think that we all need to, if anything, COVID has taught us humanization. We've all become more humanized. We've become more community oriented. We've become neighbors again. And we really need to utilize that as a connection, no doubt about it. But the one other thing that I wanted to say in regard to even doing nonprofits or anything you're doing business-wise, and it goes a lot further than being a mentor, take someone with you. Take someone along for the ride. And it doesn't matter if that's a drive to go make a presentation somewhere because no one's witnessed it before, or what it is. But think of, who can I take with me? Who can I share this with? Who can I impact with? Even what we've said today, I've already written down 7 names of women that I'm going to call because something triggered from something that one of you beautiful women said.
Yeah, I think that's critical. I think it is critical to bring some people along with you, You know, some people, again, they try to achieve their success by stepping on people along the way. I always say it's so much more fun when people push you up because they want to follow you. They absolutely want to follow you because you have inspired them and you've mentored them, etc. There's so many great things that were said. I'm going to just ask for maybe some closing comments here. Anything else anyone wants to? We're getting kind of towards the end here.
I want to add one thing, following on Erica's point about ask what irks you. I mean, she put it in more colorful terms. I'm going to go with So that is so true. I think keep achieving. One important thing is to know that it doesn't have to be linear. Going, think of that as a step ladder. You're going in steps. That often life can take you on detours. Be open to that, because when you ask that question, what annoys you the most, and you want to solve that, that can take us into uncharted territory, and we need to be open to that. And so therefore, keep achieving is not necessarily measured by this staying in the same lane and measuring our progress, but being open to taking those detours and sampling those new experiences, and some amazing achievements may come out of it, which we might not have known when we embarked on that detour.
Great point. Great point. Anybody else?
Well,
I just want to say, first of all, I think it's also, and Tammy, you brought it up too, when you were working with the young women that were disadvantaged. And I think it's really important to people for us to share our story, because I came from a battered, childhood, and I was a disadvantage, and I could have turned my anger into a different way and not achieved. And, thankfully I had, my husband, Mike, who I met in high school, that I was able to actually learn from. He was a big, big help to me. I had someone that really was able to pull me out. I lost my mom at a very young age. So I had a lot of challenges growing up that were very difficult. And a lot of people don't understand how hard it is when you are battered, when you're beat up, when you're, why do they not leave that environment? And it's because you have no confidence. You have no way of, you feel the things that are told to you. You feel that is you, that you are not good enough, that you are not able to pursue, or you're not able to achieve, and you're not able to get out of it. So just always remember, everyone out there, that no matter what you're told or how you feel or impacted by other people, don't let that affect you. Look at other people that have achieved. I see Oprah Winfrey, and she talks about that. I met her when I was young, and she was a huge influence in my life because of the fact that she was a woman of color, because she achieved. She was from Mississippi, where I grew up. I just felt like a connection to her. And of course, I'm nowhere near where she was, but imagine if she had heard all these things that she had been told and not moved forward in her life and not continued to achieve. And I think that's the biggest thing. All of us, we all have come from places that are so low, and just we're there. So if you ever need someone to connect with or talk to, know that we're here to assist in this council and helping you with that as well. That was my message.
Yeah, great points. Great points, Teresa. Desiree, did you have something as well?
Yeah, I'd like to take this back from where Chitra is in her data analytics, and all the information, resource and information is so powerful. And there is a program that's out there about what's going on if we address the most serious thing going on with COVID right now, is knowing the facts. And, we went through 1918 pandemic, and those of you who have fear or are really yearn to know the information, there's a program out there that analyzes what happened in 1918 compared to what's going on now. So after I watched the program, it was on CNN. And Dr. Fauci narrated a lot of it with Anderson. But the idea is that after I listened to the struggles and the things that went down, it was really enlightening to me, because it helped me understand how the why aren't we learning? What are we doing 100 years ago and things like that? So those of you who are having struggles because of different environments and different things that are going on, I just want to say, go out and read up. History is so important because the better you understand something, the better you can cope with it. And the more centered you are, the better off that you can do what you need to do to be inspirational to others.
Love that.
Absolutely.
It's a very positive note.
Yes. Yeah, Tammy.
So I just wanted to mention, I think that we all do this. We have great intentions. We're going to write a thank you note. And then a week goes by and we say, nah, they probably know it. We really appreciate it, right? And I don't mean just physical thank you notes, by the way, but catching somebody doing something good, paying a compliment to somebody, being kind, just reaching out to someone. Every time you think of doing it, do it. Don't just think about it. Don't let it slide. Just do it. You never know literally what those couple of words could do to change the trajectory of somebody's life by just somebody noticing, catching somebody doing something good, doing something smart, being effective, being efficient. It just might be the difference between them being positive and being negative, going in a good direction or a different direction. And every time you help somebody else, I think that there's a magic to karma that helps you to grow to the next level. But I think so often we think of doing it and then we're just like, oh, I don't want to disturb them. I don't want to interfere. Just do it. Even if it's a compliment.
I think that's huge. I think it's so easy to be critical. It's so easy to be negative. It's so easy, right? To break or burst someone's balloon, right? That's the easy thing to do. The hard thing to do is to come up with the positive comments, right? And to find those things takes the time. It takes a little more time, but you're right, Tammy, it goes for miles. I mean, it goes for miles and it can impact that person so much.
Guess what I did on January 1. So I decided with given COVID and, everything that our team, my team has gone through, we are a tiny, startup. I said, okay, let's give them time off. 10 days from Christmas to New Year so that they can refresh, re-energize. And on January 1, morning 6 a.m. through 11 a.m., I wrote handwritten personal thank you cards to my team, what each one of them meant through the days of COVID and what they contributed to. And that was the most rewarding experience for me to be able to think about them. And going back to the thank you card, that meant a lot. Everyone cherished that. I couldn't have achieved the sense of their happiness with any money, any gift that I would have gone, sent them their way. So absolutely relate to what Tammy was saying there. So
yeah, that's fantastic, Chitra. All right. Well, I heard a lot of things today. I heard a lot of great sayings. I'm going to go through a few of them. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Erica, thank you for that one. I love that one. People become who we tell them they can be. Tammy, that's insightful for me because again, I think that's so true in today's world, especially. And Chitra, life can take you on detours, right? And I absolutely agree. Achieving is not a straight linear movement. It many times goes in very different directions and you're still achieving. Whether it's like Desiree said, getting your kid to eat the peas, if you're a young mom, that is an achievement right there. That's a big one. Or, whether you're a teacher and you're working with the kids virtually in today's world, or whether you're in the business world somehow doing a job, it's all important. And we're all essential. That's the key thing. We talk about essential workers, and as I thought more and more about it, everyone's essential. And I just think to myself, we just haven't recognized it in the past. So many of the words again today: focus, passion, presence, again, growth, discomfort. That failing's okay. You can be successful. And you learn from that, right, Teresa? So there are a lot of good things. Yeah. And you develop and grow. Because achieving isn't just in the workplace. Achieving is a lifelong mission, and we all need to achieve at that. So with that, I think we're close to time. Desiree,
Yeah,
Looking
we're all good. So thank you, Kelly, for hosting this. This was absolutely fantastic. And thank you everyone for not only being on the council call, but being on the council. It's kicking off 2021. This is our first meeting for the new year. I'd like to also, Marcia Davies unfortunately couldn't be on it, but she has a challenge. And I'd like to all of us take this challenge and accept the challenge. And that is that we will, in the next 2 weeks, that we will call 3 women and ask them what we can do to help them that we have not contacted last year. Take the 10 minutes. What can I do to help you? And what can I, and be that sounding board, to be there just in that human element to get that done. And she is obviously the CEO of MBA and the founder of Empower. And so next month we kick off with Teresa Powell-Smith. She is going to be, our next principle is is going to be Believe. So in month of February, and what date is that? I think it's the 4th, correct?
I don't even, you're asking me and I'm like, I've got it on my calendar, but you know.
First Thursday, I believe it's the 4th, if I kick it down real quick here.
Yes.
Is it? Yes, it's February 4th and that is for Believe, for the month of Believe. Whatever the mind can conceive, it can achieve. So make sure that every day that you're posting on right now, it is for Keep Achieving. So hashtag Keep Achieving, hashtag NDILC 10 Principles, and hashtag NDILC 10 for 20. Love that, Chitra. I'll never forget that. So everyone, in closing, on behalf of the NDILC Council, on behalf of our leadership, and behalf of NAWRB, we thank you all for your valuable time. Please be safe and stay healthy. And anything we can do to help you, please reach out. So everyone have a great one. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.